Hello, welcome to the Reframing Mindset podcast. We are clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity and practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, and so welcome back to Reframe Mindset Podcast. My name is Constant Brooks. I know this episode is going to talk about taking the time to listen. Because that's a flaw many of us have. I had it. I still kind of have it. But it's one of those things where, no matter how big or small, taking the time to listen is, I think, one of the key things in solving many problems because sometimes we don't really take time to really listen to what the person are saying and then realize that okay, this what a lot of things, there people communicate in a lot of different ways. But the way I communicate now was way different than I used to communicate back then. I think it's through practice. So, people have I think communicating, well, there's a communication degree. So there are levels of communication and such like that. So, they to communicate effectively, there are different stages. So listening is one of those important things because even the simple the people as we call senile, they are if you really listen and really take time to understand their point of view and try to actively try to come to their point of view if they're not trying to hurt you, and that is, you realize that, oh, you understand their mindset, and then you can r- recommend treatment specific to them, but it takes active listening, so those are those things where I realize that, the problem, many issues in the world is because people don't take the time to listen to the and fully understand the other person's perspective because they are legit coming from a totally different place. Like, for example, my whole upbringing was through science. That's where a majority spend most of my time. So that the way I speak was from that perspective, how I build my points and such like that. Most time when I'm talking, I'm trying to prove something. That's I'm trying to prove my statement right, and that's was me in the initial point. I never really care much about the other side. I was more trying to make my statement right and try to make people understand where I'm coming from. That was majority of my thing. But now in my stage of life now, I'm become more calm and more tend to hear out the other side, and then I make comment about the other side. Now, if you listen to my first interview, you would have, and then up to now, you would have seen the change. Because my first interview, I was more the aggressor side in the talking, and I was more trying to make them make prove my side more than try to really hear his other side. And that was me. But then I was really, really frustrated with what was going on. Because the first interview then was during the pandemic, and I've been seeing a lot of BS that's happening. And then the first interview, he was the first person that took all those issues out, and yeah. So yeah, but taking the time to listen, even for example, music, I never really when I usually listen to music, usually listen for the instrumental. If I didn't like the instrumental, I was never going to listen to the music. And I never really care about the lyrics. I never care about the lyrics. I only care about the instrumental. If the lyrics go with the instrumental, I kind of remember some of the words from it, but other from that, it was most for instrumental. When during the pandemic, the lockdown forced me to really kind of in listen to more music, and then that's how I kind of really got to understand the music industry more. Due to me listening to for example, now not the pandemic before, but in universities when I actually started to listen to music, where I started get my favorite artists. So usually back then what I used to listen to mostly was G-Eazy, Logic, and then NF. NF was a Christian rapper. So those were the three main person I usually listen to because I usually have some great songs, and then that's how I got into listening to the lyrics more. And then over time I started to listen more to the lyrics of the different songs over, and then the pandemic really got me a lot of downtime to really get to I had a little, the lockdown really gave me a lot of free time where I was doing nothing, so I could just listen to the music and just hear what they are really trying to say. And that, and through then I think it's through then that I started to really got the tolerance to actually start listening to other people's side. Even though in some cases my patience is still low, listening to I got I guess the strategy that I use now is I try to um limit who I talk to. Like I talk to people and I need to talk to basis. I don't try to really go out there and try to have a long conversation. And I keep my point. I keep my point straightforward. Like when you listen, like when you hear it, you understand exactly what I'm saying. So the most time I have the contention is people who spending their time trying to dispute what I'm saying. Most time it's not me trying to make a point. Most time no, it's not me trying to make a point. It's just me. I reach a level where it's not me trying to make a point. It's just me giving you my perspective based on my experience and what I've learned. No, it's not me trying to prove a point. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I would take the time to really listen now. But then I would I would be more stubborn in trying to say I'm right. But now maybe I'll try to take the time to listen to the other side more. Yeah, but listening is one of those key things. It's one of those key tools that you really are going to take a time to really get to master it. You know, it's going to take a time to master. But over time, as your tolerance gets more, your life is going to really test you and force you to be patient. That's one of the first thing that life really got me to deal with this whole pandemic. Patience, because everything, corona pandemic slowed everything down. Legit down. It slowed down to levels you don't see. So that really got me to test and to really understand, to get used to being patient. And when I was being patient, what that allowed me to do now was take the time to listen to people more, because basically I was having nothing to do. So most time I'm standing in a line and so like that. So I had no choice but to listen to the other person. That was basically my entertainment some of the time. So I guess that's life way of teaching you how to listen. So yeah. So basically the conclusion of this episode is that, listening is one of the key things that's going to really determine how well you're able to grasp concept, how well you're able going to progress in life. Because majority of my progression, how my smooth progression through life was my ability to listen and hear the key things that I need to progress. Most times, like for example, in university, one of the thing that I did. So in the university, when they for a course, you had lectures and then you have tutorials. So lectures are basically the teacher coming in and teaching you the topic. Then tutorials now is where they give you practice questions, like example of questions that may come up the exam, and then the teacher teach you how to answer those questions. And it's through me going to those tutorials got me the insights and how some of those exams were going to come in because the teacher basically tells you how those exams will come. Some of them will tell you how the exam is going to set questions and such like. And most is them set the questions, set their question because how the exam goes is that for each course, you have multiple lecturers and each lecturer submit maybe one or two questions. So in the tutorial they tell you how they might set the question, what question might come and how, stuff like that. And it's through me listening to those key stuff got me um to progress to do very well in my first 2 years. In the third year, what one of the things that also went wrong was I stopped going to a lot of the lectures and the tutorials. So all those key information to basically got from word of mouth. So so yeah, so that's what was one of the other things that kind of caused that breakdown as well. But listening is one of those key things where they it can really change the trajectory of your life. Just listening to advice from any and everybody can give you advice, no matter how large or small. They can give you advice that can basically change the trajectory of your life. So that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. I look forward for the next episode. Where I said listening. So that's the word for the day. Yeah, man. So thank you. I look forward for next episode.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.
Don't rush it, Don't rush it. And it's one of those topic that is very important because you know you have the fast life and the slow life. And the fast life, and the thing about it that is that the slow life eventually reaches the fast life, where it just takes a longer time, but it in the end is worth it. But so that's the thing. But what happened is that people, the wrong assumption that we all have is that the slow life doesn't reach to that nice part that the fast life shows. So the fast life shows you the results and the nice